This is Paula from Emotional Support for All. So, parents of children with special educational needs or disabilities. On a personal level, I know exactly the issues that are still happening in this country. You're often seen and not heard, there's no funding. Um, so besides all that, I just wanted to speak about emotional support. It's hard, isn't it? Sometimes you've got a partner to lean on for support, and sometimes you haven't. Sometimes as single parents, we are doing um, it's not really a job, is it? Because there are children, but you know where I'm going with it. You know, you're doing it on your own, and it is exhausting. And I hear you. A lot of times you can have people that will say, well, wow, I don't know how you do it. And the response you give, isn't it, is, well, I wasn't given a choice. We're not, you know, our children aren't made to order, are they? You know, it is what you're given, and you deal with the hand that you dealt. And I don't think there's enough appreciation and support for us as parents because you do. Your whole life revolves around the children, which, again, absolutely, whether they've got special educational needs or disabilities, it does anyway. But it is harder when you are dealing with these issues as well. You know, a simple trip to the shops is not a simple trip to the shops, is it? You know, it's hard work. And then you have ignorant and rude people that either comment at your children or you get the stares. You could have the sympathetic stares, which I've heard is not too upsetting, or you get the as though they're looking at your pride and joy, thinking, what is that? And I find that so disrespectful. And this is from personal experience. I remember once somebody saying to me, um, you know, if you find that somebody is staring rudely and in a hurtful manner, then call them out. You don't even have to be rude about it. You can say, can I help you with something? And they will feel stupid. They will feel embarrassed because you'll have caught them looking at their absolute disgrace at what they're doing. You know, and personally, I used to say things like, is there anything that you want to ask me about anything, or are you just being rude? And they will feel this big. And they deserve it. What gives them the right to do that? You know, carry on walking past. It's nothing to do with them. And I always think, how do they think that your child who sat there in the pram or in the wheelchair must feel? You also get, don't you, that people will talk directly as you, as the adult, rather than addressing the child. And again, just because they've got disabilities doesn't mean that they can't hold a conversation. It doesn't mean that they can't speak for themselves. Yes, you're there as a guide, but that is really hurtful as well. And, you know, where people are just so rude. You know, I remember when my son was at school and we fought like mad to get him in a normal mainstream school, and I still stand by that that was the best decision that we ever did for him. It's not for everybody. But what I did, I spoke to the teachers beforehand and said, um, you know, if any parents have got any questions, if the children go home and they ask questions, I am not at all offended in any way. I would rather have a conversation with a parent and their child if need be and say, this is the situation, so and so can't do running or jumping or like you can, and this is why, and explain, give them the knowledge of it rather than the ignorance being there. Again, people don't realize how hurtful it is. And I also remember somebody saying to me years ago that when you are given this challenge, you are stronger and courageous and braver than you ever thought that you would have to be as a parent, because you still do it, don't you? You do it when they're teenagers, you do it to when they're young adults. It never ever ends. You are always making sure that they've got everything that they need, they've got the care, um, if they're going to colleges or residential homes, etc. It's never ever ending. And again, going back to what I've just said, when people say, "Oh, I don't know how you do it," you weren't given a choice. So give yourself credit, because yes, you're a parent and it is your job, but it's a hell of a job, isn't it? And I don't think as parents and carers we get enough credit. We certainly don't get enough financial support, do we, for the extra needs? You certainly don't get the emotional needs. I lost count. Well, there was very minimal times that anybody ever said to me, "How are you?" How are you coping with things? Yes, it was all around my child, which is fair enough, but I had literally nobody. No one ever said, "How are you doing?" or do you need any help with this? So, you know, and I'm guessing it has not got any better. I hear stories all the time that says it hasn't got any better. So again, give yourself some credit. Yes, it is our responsibility as a parent, but again, you know, don't feel guilty for having that little bit of self-care, because you're important too. Because what happens if you're not healthy emotionally and physically? How are you going to be able to cope for this individual that need you as strong as possible? Seek out respite care. If somebody, a family relative, offers to babysit, take that up. You're important too. Don't feel guilty. And if no one has told you, you're absolutely amazing. You're doing a phenomenal job. That is hard work, and don't be hard on yourself.